everything there is a season, so man and man must reason. So, I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind, make sure everything is fine, while I take you down a poetic line. Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, I remember you say Liberation Day, and I ask, you sure is that you wanna say? Cause you sounded so good to believe. And deception is a powerful thing when you lose your rightful thinking. So we voted for the bling. But you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. Yellow, yellow all the way is what everybody say. Cell phone ring, man answering. Yellow, yellow, no hello. Teeth get yellow, house get yellow, bus get yellow, man get yellow, even green get yellow, and so says 11-4. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. Old school parables say you know what you have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever? Not even things created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy, one song I sing, one bell a ring. If we didn't know, we never know yellow would have treated us so. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. They began with the blame game, giving NNP more fame. Past administration, the cause of frustration. Past administration, chief of corruption. Then to economic recession, we can't give you attention. Economic recession, the cause of poverty in the land. Economic recession, no employment for the ordinary man. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. All your projects are stuck in a pipeline, but when asked, how is the country going? Oh, fine. We are looking into it. Never mind. Only projects in pipeline. No water to cool down the yellow temperature. When will they start? Please answer that. Oh, soon. Maybe by the next full moon. Although things are turning at a very slow pace, we now run no race. 5 years is a lot of space. It's just a few hungry people in a place and a few disgruntled green people with their vexed face. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. Busy governing, busy managing, busy politicking, busy neglecting, busy inflicting poverty and hunger throughout Grenada. 1,000 Frenchmen can never be wrong, but you hold your yellow conviction strong. So why not send them advisors home? They're sucking money like water in foam. And rehire the Imanis, less stress on the economy. You and Manchester hold up the country. You didn't see us down by the Bury when they sent SSU to beat we. Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. So we've heard about your internal division, but some can't digest that one. Remember the man say he's an asset to the party? And will we vote you without him? You left him with Glenn alone. Maybe they cloned. And however, I foresee a pretensive unity that will mislead a lot just before the next ballot. But you guys will have to come real good, cause it's a long time Grenada ain't eat a food. You think politician good? Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. You remember in the Bible, God had a plan for Jonah to restore Nineveh. But who will restore Grenada? Is it the same Jonah? Lots of doubt, so I ain't running up my mouth. And I ain't counting no chicken before the hatch. Politicians sometimes form a crooked batch. After they get the vote, they now sing one note. But here comes Fort Judy and Nancy Payne, with $1 million house and brand new car on the scene, while our hungry belly still grumbling. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is.
And a good night to you, Grenada, Carriacou, and Pity Martinique. Once again, it is time for Talking Points. My name's Sheldon Scott. I'll be here with you up until the 10 o'clock hour.
From Jonah, here comes still with more pressure and hunger. And from the mouth of Grenada, only one thing I utter: the Congress neglect us, the Congress fail us. And I could never understand the distribution of the wealth. So drink your bush home if you want good health. And for real, we appreciate the free barrel, but they only come in December. So what we are do from January to November: suck salt and drink Nawasa water. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain.
So yes, indeed, just doing some slight adjustments, making sure everything is in place. It's now 9 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. We're going to have a guest on with us. They're going to be on the line with us at approximately 8:30. Just making sure everything was in place so that we can have that.
NNP, or else funeral for NDC. Whatever, Grenada still belongs to we. Although not.
And folks, as I promised as well, not tonight, but definitely in the next, let me see, it's going to be on Monday the 16th. We're going to have former Prime Minister, political leader of the New National Party, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. He will be on Talking Points with us. All right, so we're looking forward to that one. So we announce it today. Nice? So Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, he will be on with us on the 16th, Monday the 16th. So mark that date in your calendar. Make sure that you have it there. Eh?
Just practicing to be a poet. Not qualified as yet, but have no fear. I'm gonna get there. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectation. Neither are you in to live up.
So as I said, we'll be having a guest in. So I'm just making sure I have everything in order here. Right? Yes.
I don't owe no one, no obligation. No one owes me none, so everything is fine, fine. I say I am that I am. I am, I am, I am. I am that I am. I am, I am, I am. I am that I am. I am, I am, I am. I am that I am. I am, I am, I am. Serious business. There is a time for everything, and for everything there is a season. So man and man must reason. So I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind, make sure everything is fine, while I take you down a poetic line. Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. You now refrain. I remember you say Liberation Day, and I ask, you sure is that you wanna say? Cause you sounded so good to believe. And deception is a powerful thing when you lose your rightful thinking. So we voted for the bling. But you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. You now refrain. Yellow, yellow all the way is what everybody say. Cell phone ring, man answering. Yellow, yellow, no hello. Teeth get yellow, house get yellow, bus get yellow, man get yellow, even green get yellow, and so says 11-4. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. You now refrain. Old school parables say you know what you have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever? Not even things created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy, one song I sing, one.
So let me say a special good night to the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. We know you're all locked in. Yeah. What's going on? Man, I saw some pictures coming out of Carriacou this morning, and I was wondering what's really going on in Carriacou, because I'm seeing a situation there with people with lined up, and it reminded me a bit of, the lining up after during the time of COVID, when you had to line up for food and line up for all kind of thing. I was looking at that and saw people having to line up and so to get gasoline in Carriacou. So there seems to be an issue when it comes to gasoline and diesel fuel in Carriacou that is affecting Carriacou. And of course, you don't have proper leadership that knows how to deal with that proper in Carriacou. So it is affecting the people of Carriacou. There is a shortage of fuel. The main gas station there in Hillsborough, they had a long line of traffic waiting this morning to go and fill up and so. And you see, that's the kind of thing when you talk about, when you say that you need to have proper leadership. Because when you have a situation like that, what happens is that if you have proper leadership, they know to speak to different people, speak to the companies and so, and organize to make sure that there is proper storage, that you have enough at any point in time on the island of Carriacou, so that people don't have to go since after 3 and 4 this morning lining up in Carriacou. Yeah? After 3 and 4, so the first set of people went out lining up in Carriacou to get fuel. Vehicles line up all down the road in Hillsborough waiting to get fuel. That is an untenable situation because it affects productivity. It affects even people's safety. Imagine that you don't have enough fuel to get to the medical facility if something is wrong with a relative. So you have that situation that needs to be dealt with on the island of Carriacou, and it needs to be effectively dealt with. Yeah? So that's one of the issues that we're dealing with tonight. Nice? Let me say a special good night to Ann Andrews, Cynthia, Jakeem, Kathleen, Adrian, Ruth, Philip, Kevin. Good night to all of you. Wilma, Clive, Christine, Matthew. Matthew, you're in early as usual, man. You're both in your warm weather tonight, man. So a special good night to each and every one of you over there on the YouTube. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. Let me say it again. Like, subscribe, and share. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you share the YouTube. All right. And for those of you over on Facebook, let me see what's going on over on Facebook. Let me say a special good night to Shemi, Earl, Winnie, Ray. No, that's not Ray. That's Faye. Need to fix our glasses, boy. Keisha, Langdon. Good night to all of you. Courtney, Gil, Charmaine, Gillian, Jocelyn, Linda, Imelda, Francois, Dwight Ferguson, ShopRite, Duncan, hey, cuz, good night, man. Wallan, yes, so good night to all of you over there on the Phyllis. I'm seeing Favor King, good night to you all. Good night to you. Hey, brother Devon Romain, good night to you. Earl Benjamin, Lydia, good night to you. And let me see, Roses, McLean, Desmond. Good night, Lisa. Good night to all of you. Rawl, good night to you as well. Yeah, remember to like and share. And as I said, in a short while, we will be joined by a guest on the program tonight. We're going to be discussing an issue of national importance tonight. I'm not saying much. When the guests come, we're going to start to talk on that issue. Nice?
Distribution of the wealth. So drink your bush home if you want good health. And for real, we appreciate the free barrel, but they only come in December.
And to those of you who were not on last night but are on tonight, we say a special Happy New Year to each and every one of you. We know some of you didn't get the message last night that we're on, but remember, we did say we were coming back from the first week of January, and we kept our word. First working day, we're back to work, right? First working day of January, we're back out. All right, nice.
And in what language are you?
So also remember, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, he will be joining us not Monday coming, but the following Monday. So the following Monday, which is the 16th, we will be having with us Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. How much people in Grenada you could call the Right Honorable? When you say the Right Honorable, it means that that person is a member of used to be Her Majesty's, His Majesty's Privy Council. You know? Yeah, as far as I know, the only person that carries that title on the island right now is Dr. Mitchell. Eh? And folks, I don't know if you all have been paying attention to the international news and some of the stuff that's going on. And if you're paying attention to the international news and you see what's going on in the Ukraine, you know that you have to be very careful. There are economic implications to us here in Grenada for what we see going on in the Ukraine. Yeah, it might be Russia and Ukraine have the fight, but they produce things that we consume. So it could be the baby formula. The price of the baby formula might be affected, right? You have things like the price of flour, the price of beers, everything is already start to gone up because the price of sugar has also been increased, right? So you have that situation that's taking place. So we all have to be very careful. What little money you have to conserve, you have to save, you have to ensure that you conserve. Nice? And we already into January, and they say January does have long pants. The longest month of the year is January. That's what some of them does say. Yeah. They say January is the longest month. So good night to you, Ibrahim. Good night to you, Susan. Junior, good night.
And for everything there is a season.
No, Junior, I'm not saying that it has anything to do specifically with the government. I'm saying that it is an existing situation, and as such, what is taking place in Carriacou, the government has a responsibility to ensure that it rectifies that problem. Whether the government itself builds tanks or it speaks with the company to ensure that there are proper storage tanks in Carriacou, yeah? Or whether they ensure that there are regular enough shipments coming to Carriacou so that the people of Carriacou don't end up in this sort of situation. You can't be in government, see a situation like that, not even speak on it or attempt to do anything to address the problem. Now, this is not the first time that you're having this shortage. You know that this is not the very first time. This is probably the first time you're seeing it to this expanse, but it's not the first time. And as such, it is the responsibility of the present government, the government in place now, to ensure that this does not continue. You can't say that it's the company and you just leave it up to the company and say, well, did the company demolish this or the company do that, and leave it up to the company. You, as the parliamentary rep, and I'm not meaning you, Junior, but I'm meaning that they have a responsibility. You, as in the government, as in the parliamentary representative, has a responsibility to ensure that they do all within their power so that this situation doesn't continue. So whether it is give a concession to the company to ensure that proper storage facilities are located on the island of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, the island of Carriacou, yeah, and a smaller one in Petit Martinique, or that shipments are coming in regularly, and it's not a situation where you have to wait to send two the tankers up via one of the boats to Carriacou to go and load up the filling station so that they could provide. That's an untenable situation. What happens if, pray tell, because disasters, and we hope and pray that doesn't happen, what happens if a disaster hits? Does it mean that the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique will be left without any fuel for an extended period of time? Yeah? So there must be storage facilities on the island, and you can't just say that there's no storage facilities and we have nothing to do with that. You have a responsibility to the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique to ensure that what needs to be done is done. All right, so I'm just responding to one message. I understand where the individual is coming from. They're saying that no, it's not the government didn't do it, but the government can help correct it. They're talking about boots on the ground, boots on the ground, boots on the ground. And that's why I said last night, it's not boots on the ground, it's boots in your rear. Because instead of dealing with situations like that, you're running to say that you that do Bishop's College. Deal with the present situation. For instance, and I could tell you this, and you could check it out from various sources. The same plane that they're saying not available right now, the same plane that should be doing the route between Carriacou and mainland Grenada, the same plane, the plane is, it's running, you know. The plane flying. The plane is flying. And the plane didn't start flying only today. That plane has been in the air for about the last week, roughly. You think we don't know the number of the plane? All planes have a specific ID number. It's like a fingerprint on the plane. The plane that is supposed to be flying between Carriacou and Grenada, the plane is in operation. Not between Grenada and Carriacou. Further up the islands. So either SVG Air or the government of Grenada has to answer some questions to the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique and the people of Grenada as well, because many of us, like people like myself, we don't like the boat. Yeah, I really, really don't like boats. I love to see them, hate to ride on them. Yeah, but the plane is what I would prefer to use if I have to go to Carriacou. And the plane is available. We saw a note coming out saying that the engine had gotten some gravel or something into it, and that had damaged the engine, so the plane was out of service. Well, I could qualify. I can tell you definitely, and I can prove to any of you that that plane has been in operation for roughly the last week. The same plane that they say, and you see the release come out saying the plane is unavailable because the engine damage and whatever. Well, he's flying now though. But flights have not resumed between Carriacou and Grenada. Again, it's due to a lack of understanding and a lack of leadership that you have situations like this cropping up. Yeah? That's why you have situations like that coming up. So right now, you have the situation where there's that problem getting to and from Carriacou. If you don't like the boat, sometimes large flights come in and people prefer sometimes to come in with a large flight. You spend the time on the airport and then you take the Carriacou plane. That option isn't open again. And we had the Christmas period. You have a lot of people in Carriacou still and in Petit Martinique still who are visiting from overseas during the Christmas period, and they have to go back, and they would have loved to have that option to use the plane. So what's the excuse now? What's the excuse now? What's the latest excuse in relation to it? They can't say that the plane isn't flying, eh? They can't say the plane isn't in operation. The plane is flying and it's in operation. So what is the latest? Yeah? So in the same way, when I'm speaking about the fuel situation in Carriacou, I'm saying that it is the responsibility of the government of the day. It is the responsibility of the parliamentary representative to ensure that this situation does not continue. So that someone who is staying a good distance away from the hospital does not have to endure the problem of possibly running out of fuel when they're rushing a loved one to the hospital. But that there's enough fuel on island to ensure that everybody can have the amount that they need when they need it. That affects productivity. That affects many. It even affects the ministry itself. Because the ministry vehicles ain't running on air. It ain't running on water. It's running on fuel too. So down to the vehicle that Mr. Tevin Andrews is using and still collecting his $24,000 a year. Additional. Yeah? Down to the vehicle that he's using too. There are fuel issues in it. Yeah? That's what I'm speaking about when I speak about these issues, yeah? That's what I'm speaking about. So let me just take a quick one here.
This is not politics. Please don't forget. I'm just practicing to be a poet. Not qualified as yet, but have no fear. I'm gonna get there. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectation. Neither are you in to live up to mine.
So I was saying a little earlier that I hope you all are paying attention to the international news. So we see the situation that's taking place in Ukraine. Yeah? you also see the situation that's taking place right now in China. Yeah? And tonight we're going to have a short conversation in relation to the issue of COVID-19. Right? Because there is the situation that's developing in China right now in relation to COVID-19. I think lots of us, we've gotten back to the point where we treat COVID-19 like the common cold. That's what the average person is doing right now, which is a very dangerous thing to do. Yeah, so many of us have gotten back into the old habits and already forgotten some of the basic rules that we as individuals set for ourselves during the time of COVID-19. That if you believe you have the cold or you've been exposed to somebody with COVID, that you stay home and different things. Masking if you find you're coughing and you're having that problem, and so that you do your mask and all of that. Many people have gotten off of that, right? And I think we need to revisit some of it. So we will be having a discussion with Dr. Bert Braffet in a short while. We will be having a discussion with him in relation to what has been taking place, what we're seeing rolling out in China and what has been taking place and what we can expect here in Grenada and in the region. Because you don't want to be surprised and don't want to find yourself 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the road. Remember in 2019, this was the way it started up, you know. At the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020, this was the way it started up. You started hearing about outbreaks in China and so on, and outbreaks and this and that and so on. And by the time we entered into 2020, January 2020, February 2020, you started hearing more about what they call then the Wuhan virus. And then they named it officially COVID-19. And then you saw what happened by March in 2020. We had our first case here in Grenada. And then that was followed by lockdowns and all sorts of things that we had to go through. And we're not saying that that's where we have to go back or what we have to do. But we're saying that we need to be careful, all right? So we'll be having a discussion in a short while with Dr. Bert Braffet. So we're going to connect with him in a little while, and we will be having that conversation.
Cease to brew to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy, one song I sing, one bell I ring. If we didn't know, we never know yellow would have treat us so. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. They began with the blame game, giving NNP more fame. Past administration.
Yeah, so we're still waiting.
The frustration. Past administration, chief of corruption. Then to economic recession, we can't give you attention. Economic recession, the cause of poverty in the land. Economic recession, no employment for the ordinary man. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. All your projects are stuck in a pipeline. But when asked, how is the country going? Oh, fine. We are looking into it. Never mind. Only projects in pipeline. No water to cool down the yellow temperature. When will they start? Please answer that. Oh, soon. Maybe by the next full moon. Although things are turning at a very slow pace, we now run the race. 5 years is a lot of space. It's just a few hungry people in a place and a few disgruntled grim people with their vexed face. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited.
Yes, folks, and I want to say a special good night. We do have on the line with us Dr. Bert Braffet. Good night to you, sir.
Good night to you, Sheldon, and good night to your listeners.
Oh boy,
I'm sure of yours as well.
For some reason, I'm barely hearing you.
I am not sure. You hear me better now?
Oh, are you using a Bluetooth or something like that?
No, I'm speaking directly into a cell phone.
I am
speaker.
Oh boy, I'm not sure. Oh, I think I know what's happening here. Yeah, I think I've solved the problem. Yeah, go right ahead, Doc.
Yes, I said was saying good night to you and good night to all your listeners. Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you much better right now. I found the problem. It was on my end.
Okay, right. I just wanted to say a good night to all, and also
Hello? Hello? Oh boy, it seems like we may have lost Dr. Braffet. I am not sure what's taking place there. Dr. Braffet, are you hearing us? Hello? Okay, folks, let me try to reconnect with Dr. Braffet. So let me just put on a tune here, and we're going to try to reconnect with Dr. Braffet. Hi, Dr. Braffet, are you there? Oh boy, the technology is doing what technology does from time to time. For some reason, I'm not hearing him. I am not sure what's happening. So let me try another means of contacting Dr. Braffet. I appreciate their opinion. I can't change my principles as a culture man. It's so critical. I love carnival, but my country means everything to me. I ask not what she can do for me, but what can I do for my country under the sun when all is said and done? The evidence will be written in history. Oh yeah, that this little Calypsonian was one out of a million, but the culture always trumped the man. I say the culture bigger than the man. Hey, yeah. Hey, hey. Whoa, 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 yeah, yeah. Li-di-di-di-do. 25 years now in the race, all you're getting is second place. Would you please tell us what is wrong? You sang songs about South Africa, you sang songs about Sweet Grenada, and for heaven, they wouldn't give you a crumb. Well, it seems like they're just ignoring your qualities. Or is it because you are not politically? We search hard but can't find a reason why you never reach number one. So leave the damn thing for fungus and the gang. It's so critical. I love carnival, but my country means everything to me. I ask not what she can do for me, but what can I do for my country under the sun when all is said and done? The evidence will be written in history. So in spite of the position, I'm receiving competition. I know the culture always trump the man. The culture bigger than the man. Whoa, whoa. La da da da, oh. Hey. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We know you got what it takes, but it's time to give them a break. Like the king, man, make you famous side. It is true that we recognize all your hard work and sacrifice, but don't let them take you for no ride. You should take your talent and sweet voice to Trinidad, and without a doubt we know you will get some
hearing you.
All right. So I think you should be hearing me now. Hello?
Hearing you.
Okay, yes. I'm hearing you, Doc. Yeah, go right ahead.
Right. Again, good night to listeners. Sorry about that initial hiccup. And I started off by extending greetings to all for the new year, wishing them good health and happiness, and hope that their desires come true. Are you hearing me, Sheldon?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Wonderful.
Okay.
Now,
Right.
Dr. Braffet, just before we connected with you, I had been speaking about the issue, what's taking place in China right now, and as a medical expert, and but before we even get into that, though, people always hear Dr. Braffet, Dr. Braffet. Can you tell us a bit about Dr. Braffet first, though? Your speciality.
Okay. All right. First, I can tell I don't consider myself a medical expert.
Hello?
Gastroenterologist and
Yeah.
also an internist.
Yeah.
I have worked for many years in the public health system, and I very much an interest of mine. I was deeply involved in the COVID program. Actually, was chairman for the majority of time that the country was under COVID, facing the COVID situation.
Mm-hmm.
But my primary focus in as a professional is gastroenterology. But I have long had public health interests. Actually, I've done a lot of work with chronic diseases in the past, such as working with the diabetics, and this goes way back. I also worked with HIV back in the time HIV was first discovered back in the late 80s and early 90s, to bring awareness to the public. My thrust outside of my former training has always been to try to get the public as enlightened as possible about the health matters.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're enlightened, then they can make the best decisions for them.
Yes, hello?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with
okay.
you.
Yeah, one of the things now, we were speaking a little earlier about what has been taking place in China. Give us a little back, because I know you've been following what's taking place there. Give us a little rundown on what has been taking place with COVID-19, January 2023.
Before I go there, perhaps I should deal with what is happening outside of China, because that may impact us first and foremost. And that is that there's this variant called XBB.1.5, a subvariant of Omicron, which is picking up in a number of countries, especially in US. And it has been galloping along in recent days, causing quite a few infections and hospitalizations, etc. It is found that it is even more infectious than the other Omicron variant, so you're more likely to pick it up. I don't think the full story is out in terms of the degree of illness that it will cause. Is it going to cause people to become a lot iller and be hospitalized significantly more? It doesn't seem so at present, but one thing we must bear in mind is that it is a year since people would have been exposed to the Omicron virus, so the virus would have the immunity, people's immunity to the Omicron would have waned. And this is especially so for older folk. So the first thing I would say is that we should be strongly encouraging people, and I certainly have encouraged all my family, my friends, and my clients to, if you're over 65, or if you have a medical underlying illness, you're diabetic, you're asthmatic, you're significantly overweight, your cancer patient on chemotherapy, or not even on chemotherapy, any condition that underlying significant condition that you have, plus if you're over 65 and you have not had COVID in the last year, you've not had a booster in the last year, you should immediately seek to get a booster, because I am pretty sure that we are likely to see a surge in COVID cases sometime within the first quarter of this year. Because once it's in the United States and there's pick up there with tourism going full bang, then we know cases will come in. And the vulnerable group in the society, the most vulnerable group is the group that I just mentioned. Now, what I'm hoping that will happen is that we will get the bivalent vaccine. I've been making some calls and appeals wherever I could around in the private and public sector in Grenada to get the bivalent vaccine, which is the Omicron, is the update on the original Pfizer and the original Moderna. It's a bivalent vaccine, and it's made specifically to handle Omicron. And this is what we should be, hopefully, by now. I quite some weeks I've been trying to explore getting it in. I myself would like to get a vaccination, but until recent times, I don't know if in recent days it wasn't available anywhere in Grenada. And so if you want to protect the society, we need to get that vaccine in properly. And secondly, to encourage people, encourage those groups that I'm talking about, especially the over 65s and the people with underlying conditions, to go get your vaccinations. As COVID is going, it appears as though we may well require to have a vaccination each year. Remember that COVID, even the strains that are the variants that are not that bad, are causing people by and large to get iller than even the flu. So imagine a bad flu and it's worse than that, and it's causing long-term illnesses, the long COVID symptoms, etc. These things have not disappeared. You'll hear less about them because they're affecting fewer people in the society. But with a surge, if we get a surge in Grenada, you will certainly find a lot of people getting ill again. So that's the background situation that we face. Mm-hmm. Now, what compounds that? I don't know if you wanted to say something or ask something, and then I'll get on to the China situation.
Let me ask the question I wanted to ask at this point is, I think that during the height of the epidemic, we still had a lot of people, there was still a lot of folks that were vaccine hesitant. And even now, with a lot of people consider COVID basically to be the common cold right now. That's how many people have started treating it. Is it wise how they're operating? No. And what do you think should be done in relation to the existing, even people who have taken their first shot and their booster have now said, hey, we're not taking any more. That's it. We're not taking any more shots and that sort of thing. Do you think there's anything that can be done to address that? Or is anything being done to address that?
The younger folk, they can probably get away with it unless you hear that there's a variant that is causing significant hospitalizations and deaths. They will probably get away with it. And that's why I keep stressing. Obviously, any messaging that has to go on has to consider all the age groups. And the age group over 65 or so is still very much a vulnerable population. If a vulnerable group, if they have not been, even if they were vaccinated, and even though they had a booster, if they have not had a booster in a year, they're going to be much more risk. And for many people, yes, a number of people, especially younger folk, might get any new subvariant and suffer much less illness than in the past, assuming that this subvariant, this XBB, does not prove to be causing much more illness. And I said it's early days yet. So the thrust, in my opinion, should not be so much now selling vaccinations for the younger folk but certainly for the older folk, most definitely for the older folk, you want to encourage them to go there and get the vaccine. And hopefully the Ministry of Health and the private sector will have the bivalent vaccine available. It is now about 3 months that you could go into Walmart in the States and you could get this vaccine. So I'm not sure what is causing us not to be able to have it available here, even if it meant in many instances that people had to pay for the vaccination. There are some people who I would like to know that it's available for all who want to have it. But at least for even for those who can't afford to go in and pay for it, I'm sure many people will want that set.
Right, wonderful. You were moving on to the situation in China.
Yes, now this now brings a totally a further concern with respect to COVID. What is happening in China, in a way, to me, is a bit reminiscent of what happened in 2019. Not so much by virtue of perhaps the ultimate risk of deaths, although if a community does not have significant vaccination, probably what is happening in China, most authorities think, is that the vaccine, though effective, was not as effective as other vaccines that are available internationally. And that in many instances, it seems as though they had a full run of first boosting, but not as high, a full run of initial vaccination, that's the 2 shots, but not as much of boosting. And so if you haven't had a booster for a year or so, they say, and your vaccine was weak, then you're going to be particularly at risk. And so once the Chinese government decided to open up and they removed that all the measures that they had in place, the virus started to spread. But now here is the concern. Here's the concern: the virus is spreading, and information about what is going on. The World Health Organization throughout December repeatedly, and other agencies of government, but I especially look at the World Health Organization because that's supposed to be a non-political organization. They're just looking at the health of the world, as it says, the World Health Organization. And they have asked repeatedly for more information. And it will strike me that it's just been, on what is happening, that it's just been coming in drips and drabs and drips and drabs. And at one stage, a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, reports came out that China had changed its policy in terms of how they were classifying people as having dying from COVID. Only those people who died from respiratory failure or directly issues affecting the lung will seem to be classified. So, and that's not how you can get COVID. You may not die of respiratory failure, but it affects other parts of the body. There are many people who develop strokes, who develop heart problems and die from COVID. So that's one issue. And then the other issue in terms of the hospitalizations and deaths, what is being reported from China is not what the international news agencies are picking up. The international news agencies are picking up significant deaths occurring. Now, China is a huge country with billions of people, but nevertheless, notwithstanding that, there's some hard facts that authorities, and this is health authorities, various centers for development, centers for CDCs across the world have been asking of China, well, the situation as is being reported in terms of deaths in crematoriums, etc. Crematoriums are overburdened. Just today I was reading a report which said that, and this is from reputable sources, that people were in some areas being only allowed 10 minutes to stay with the relatives before the final rights are obtained. So the statistics, and then you also have modeling companies around the world, and there's one out of Britain, Affinity, that has reported that China, by the way, has said that there have only been something I believe of less than 10 deaths of December 30th in terms of the December period they're wrong. But these agencies are saying no, based on our modeling, they must have had, and they would have, they put various factors in. They would have had the data of what was happening in China before. That China is probably having anything like 9,000 deaths per day or so. And it will rise, they anticipate as many as 25,000 deaths, and probably over 500,000 people will die by January or so. And because the peak period is expected to be of COVID spread is expected to be in a few weeks. So when you have this situation where as I said, the international health agencies have not been comfortable with the reports that they have got out of China, and the information that they're getting is conflicting with what the models are showing and what other things are suggesting. So the question then comes, what really is going on? Are there other variants? No, there's not been evidence of other variants. Certainly in terms of the viruses, the sequences of viruses that China has reported, there's not been any new variants of worry in China. And therefore, we have to assume that it might be just low immunity of the population as a whole. But what is known is that wherever you have a situation, at any time, the greater the amount of spread of the virus, the greater the chance of getting a dangerous variant coming on. Hopefully, because of as more and more of mankind becomes exposed to the virus, it will not cause the massive death rates as we had in Delta last year and back again in 2020. But because the situation coming from China is unsure, what you'll find happen is that a number of countries, over a dozen countries, have actually said anyone coming from China, you have to come in with a PCR test, as was done back up until about late last year. They have reimposed these settings. So China has got upset and they said they're going to retaliate. But so that is where we are at point in the world. And the question, therefore, is what do we need to do? Do we need to consider doing anything? Because if you're unsure what is happening in a country where there's as massive death as most is occurring in China at the moment, what do you do at home to protect your people? I don't think that you would want to be contemplating, based on all the evidence I see, checking everybody who's coming to the country again. But isn't there a role for checking individuals folk who come from China and or those who are in transit through China? Because if you go to China, you spend the most parts of China spend a few days now, you have a good chance of acquiring the virus based on what is thought to be spread there at present. And so Britain, Taiwan, Japan, Italy, countries in Europe, France, England, and other countries, a number of countries have now started to check anyone coming from China or who has been in transit through China. And some are going on actually to do spot checks on other people coming in on the plane as well. And there's also been further discussion about, and perhaps they might have already started implementing it, that this is something we can't do locally, where they're going to check the wastewater coming from the planes to see if they're picking up new variants, etc. But what is for sure is that in our situation here, if I would go back to Grenada now, I would feel that our elderly population is again at risk because many would not have had boosters. Over a year would have passed. Many have chronic diseases. So I definitely think that we should be pushing for them voluntarily is that to go up and get your booster. And also we should be looking at screening folk who come from China, because here's the situation we face. If perchance we are faced with a new variant, and we said it last year around Delta, we knew that with Delta on board that we were going to face major problems. But then people went out in the community, and you remember all the jabs went to play politics and that, and people were encouraged to go and do it actually, and then we had 198 deaths in the country within basically a 2-month span. But we knew it was coming, and what we were able to do is to prepare so that the system, although it was pressed to its max, and we were able to cope, although it clearly was very stressful on all the individuals across the board, both doctors, nurses, the whole works, and the administrators, etc. But everybody put their head to the plow, and we did the best we could. So you want to know at any time what is happening in all parts of the world, so you can best protect your country.
Mm-hmm.
And the government, therefore, one would anticipate, would be looking very, very closely at the situation. If the big countries see it necessary, the green people are coming in from China. Even if you say them.
Oh boy, it seems as though, we... Dr. Braffet, I'm not sure if you're hearing me. Let me try this, and let me see if I can get back Dr. Braffet. I think the problem is not on his end. I think it's on my end. So let me see. Dr. Braffet, are you hearing us? Hello? Dr. Braffet? Let me try it this way. Dr. Braffet, are you hearing us?
Yes, I'm hearing you right through clearly.
Yeah, okay. I think I know what the problem is here, so I'll deal with that afterwards. Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Yeah, no, so I was basically finished the point I was making there.
Yeah, you because you had been speaking about some of the things that the present government should be doing in a situation like this. So one of the things you're recommending is that they obtain the new...
I'm not recommending, hold on. I am just stating
Okay, we're being careful.
I'm not in a position to recommend to the government. I'm sharing my thoughts on the matter.
Okay. Because so you're suggesting that one of the things that needs to be looked at is that we should have the newest vaccine available, especially for folks over the age of 60 or people with different issues, such as they on chemotherapy, they've been through chemotherapy, or they have other underlying issues that could cause them to be more susceptible to having a very bad case or maybe even a fatal case of COVID-19.
Absolutely. Over 65.
Over 65. And
but people of any age with significant underlying medical problems.
Mm-hmm. You're also suggesting as well that the government secure that vaccine and also go on a program of educating people in relation to it?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
I don't know to what extent that is going on, but if that is not going on, then it needs to be undertaken.
Well, I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything in relation to it. I'm wondering because at this stage, and I'm seeing one or two people saying, "Oh, we're giving too much advice." But the thing is, the advice that we give today could be the advice that either saves our lives or our loved ones' lives, and that's why
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
give that type of advice from time to time. And the thing is, do you see a possibility of us ending up back in what we went through in 2021 at a point in time when we had that situation with it being rampant and that sort of thing? Or are there certain
I
measures we
do
can put
not.
in place to avoid that?
I think the message we can put in place to avoid it. What we do not know is, I mean, for argument's sake, I don't know if people know, for focusing on this. At the Richmond home, there was only perhaps one or so deaths. And this must be that. Actually, I suggested to the folk within the Ministry of Health at the time that they should have written up that, because we went in there, because we did a lot of work, and a number of us went and talked to the staff, and the staff, we got them to buy in to getting vaccinated, etc. And the folk, they vaccinated the folk within the homes, within Richmond home. The majority were, if not all, were vaccinated. We had very little in the way of fatality there, right? And similar, so that sends to me, that sends a clear message of how one needs to approach the situation like this. What is for sure is that at present there's uncertainty as to what is happening in China, to what extent it will impact the rest of the world. So I'm not in any way, I want to make it clear, suggesting that you're going and you have the kind of measures that we had back in 2021. But what I'm saying is there are some things that are relatively, if you start to check people coming in, that we don't have a huge amount of traffic coming in from China, which is contradistinct from if you ask people, this is what other countries are doing, telling them you have to come in with a PCR. But at least if you're checking them at the ports, and you are, but first and foremost, getting your population's immunity up. That's the most important thing. Getting the vulnerable in the population. And again, I stress, I'm not referring to healthy young people. Many of them would have been exposed to the virus either naturally or have been vaccinated. And they will get it, they will get sick, and they will ride through it. But that is not going to be the same for many older folk. Mm-hmm. There's a distinction that I want to make clear here.
Now, there's one message I'm seeing here. I'm not sure if you're able to answer it, but I'll ask it anyway. And one commentator who is speaking from the US is asking if you can comment on the new medicine Paxlovid. He says it recently saved his daughter's life when she was unable to breathe as a result of COVID-19.
Well, there it is. There's a young girl, a young person. Well, he said his. Did he say young or just said his daughter?
It's his daughter, and knowing the age of the person, that person would be pretty young. Yeah.
We don't know what age, right? But it's his daughter. Yes, Paxlovid works. I am not aware, but perhaps the ministry has it, but I'm not aware that it is. Certainly, he should have on board as well. Perhaps the ministry should have some of it available. Paxlovid has been around. It's very expensive, but it has a role in certain settings, and certainly this is something you don't wait till you have an outbreak to try to get these things, because then you get them in these things. Listen, right now, there's a rush in many countries, and certainly in China, for basic cough and flu medicine. And if even the XBB, which is not, I haven't seen reports of that over China, but even if that one spreads around the world and it's more infectious than the Omicron, again, we might find ourselves short of even basic cough medicine. So you have to have some measure of supplies, especially for those folk who get as the gentleman's daughter
And
face.
he's saying here she's 34, so that's still pretty young.
That's young. That's
Yeah.
young.
And that's when
Young.
you're supposed to be strong and so on. You're 34, you're just out of your
That's right.
20s.
If she doesn't have any underlying illnesses, that is, that's just why we say, even for young people, go out there and get vaccinated. And for sure, if you in a setting and you see the numbers are picking up and you're a young person and you hear of a number of hospitalizations, go and get your booster.
And
Right?
he also has qualified that she had no known pre-existing conditions.
There goes.
So she was she's a healthy 34-year-old who contracted COVID, and Paxlovid saved her life.
That's right. So, and you don't want to be in a situation where you have your relative in the hospital and we have to wait 3 or 5 days to get in a supply. Right? You need to have these things on board.
Okay, great. Doc,
yes, I hear people. I know the political dimensions, but listen, from the past government's perspective, this is something that, and I actually was very upset when people went out there during Carnival last year, just in the run up to Carnival. I encourage people to go and play a jab, right? And it clearly, there was some clear political overtones to it. Some of it was not, but some was. And I would never encourage any political party to go down. You're dealing with the health of people. You can fight other issues openly, but full square as politics goes. But when it comes to health issues, we must be all in sync and aiming to protect the society. That's why I feel comfortable to come here and share my thoughts tonight.
Yes, wonderful. Doc, we know it's coming up. We just a little over half an hour, and I know we said we'd speak for half an hour.
Yeah.
And we've spoken mainly about COVID. Is there anything else you want to tell us before your time? We have to run off from us tonight.
Yeah, but just one thing not related. It is a health matter indirectly, and I just wanted to comment on, and this is of a general political nature now. Now, folk may or may not know, I was the chairman of Solid Waste Authority for a few years, 3 or 4 years prior to the elections, at which point after the elections I resigned. And we were working on a project that was the brainchild of the management of the solid waste. They came up with the idea of trying to get the derelicts off the streets. And a lot of work was done to get this program together. They worked with agencies, the police, with health, and other agencies. And at that time, the Grenada Solid Waste also worked with a gentleman from outside. And we started identifying and starting to compress strip cart vehicles and build them and export the parts, and the whole methodology of what was going to happen was very much on stream, and I really compliment the folk in the authority for the energies they're putting, and the board at that time, it had the full blessing. The board did whatever it could do to see this going. Now, I fast forward to present times. And I'm not the type of person who requires to be praised in any way for that work. But what I think I must comment on is the intellectual dishonesty when other folk come along and now they make it as though they have created this whole scenario. So the cleanup that is going on around the country nationally to get rid of those unsightly vehicles which are, they harbor pests, people, and they block up the streets and stop fire trucks from getting in place, and they look unsightly for a multitude of reasons. All these derelict vehicles need to be removed. That whole program was in place. Of course, might have to be changed, it might have to be tweaked. depending on how they find that it is working, and that's fine, and run with it, and feel proud that we've continued that work. But do not lay claim to what you don't have responsibility for. Again, I repeat, I think it's intellectual dishonesty, and I hope people desist from doing that.
Well, Dr. Braffet, I've been passing through on my way to St. John and St. Mark, and so I've been passing through the Perseverance area. And I realized that there seems to have been a project that took place. There are several projects that were taking place there. Could you give us a little background in relation to that? Because I realized that one area that was which is where I knew the original dump site was. I'm now seeing there's some stuff planted there and different things like that. You're seeing another cell. You're seeing some other things being laid, and so. What were some of the things that you all at the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority had rolling out at the time that you demitted office?
Yeah, well,
outside of the derelict vehicle removal.
Yeah, these were things that had been in the pipeline for some time. This grant was used to create the cells. We tried as much as possible to make sure that the engineering works were sung, because there was problem in the past. And then also the original dump site was capped. It been covered and capped, and the whole thing is going to be set up to look aesthetically much more pleasing. Again, a lot of work, a lot of reorganization went on at the authority, and the folk who some of the folk in management at the authority, they were actually up there on the spot, directing and organizing for this work to go on. And I myself was very pleased with it. And on a bigger note, let me say that one of the challenges that this government and any succeeding government faces is what we are going to do with solid waste in the country. The measures that have been instituted only have a finite time to before again we find problems, and so the whole question of waste reduction was very much in the forefront. And the management team at the authority was constantly bringing proposals to us as to what we need to do, and the board will look at them, and we are working towards trying to reduce waste and the collections that you see going on around now of plastics. There was a lot of work to reduce plastic, but it's not only plastics. And so there's lots of work that was going on in solid waste, and this idea that this sudden transformation that is going to be going on, I really don't buy into that. As far as I'm concerned, the country was being transformed, and it was being transformed. I'm not saying for one moment that there were not areas of weaknesses, areas that needed to be improved upon, by all means. But don't come and tell me that there's this massive transformation that can take place. And even outside of this sector, I saw, and I maintain that the educational process, the whole field of education, notwithstanding the issues that the previous government would have faced, that there were significant strides in the educational process in the country, and opening up of the process, and people having accessibility to be able to move on to tertiary level education, etc. Yes, there was need for improvement in many areas, and by all means, I'd be happy that the government, a new government, is coming and going on to do that. But don't say that lots of work and lots of thinking. As a matter of fact, Sheldon, I must say this before, I know I don't want to take up all your program before you. I said to myself, in 2008, the previous NNP government had managed this country well post Ivan, and the government lost. For fast forward to 2022. Again, another major episode strikes the country. This government, the past government, managed this country well, and people it is convenient to think that we could have done. There's a lot more that would have been done if the pandemic didn't strike. People talk about projects that were long, outstanding, etc. I'm sure there's a measure of it because I had a feel of what happens within the service, and I know that these things would have happened, but lots of work, there would have been lots of delays because of what had happened over that near 3-year period.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All credit to the administration. They had its weaknesses, but to think that we have to suddenly get a big traction. Sure, we have to move things along and move different in different directions. That there's absolutely nothing wrong in keeping with modern day practices. But I think many of these things, the basis of them have already been laid, and it's left with this new government now to get them to high heights.
Great. All right, Doc, we'd like to thank you so very much for joining us tonight. I know you've had a very, very rough 2 days in the past 2 days. I wouldn't go into details. So I'm very glad that you've been able to join us tonight to give some insight into one, the present situation in relation to COVID, and two, especially in relation to some of the things that were in train with the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, of which you were the chairman of the board. So it's very important for someone like you to come out and say, these are some of the things that we had in train, be it the issue of recycling. I know that was one of the things that the Solid Waste Authority has been speaking about for the past few years, the importance of setting up the various aspects of recycling on the island, and also the creation of these new cells. Because, I mean, this is going to stop some of the fires that we've been seeing that you have been having over the past few years. You've been having some very bad fires.
As you mentioned that, do you know one of the things that they did? And this again came from the management team of Solid Waste. They set up and were using infrared drones. They used drones to fly over the site to pick up hot spots. And I thought that was very creative. As a matter of fact, I praised them at meetings. And I told the manager that, look, I think you need to write this up, because I asked, how many places is this being done? And they were able, therefore, to go in from early and pick up then their hot spots and immediately go to work to try to extinguish the areas that were, where the fires might have started to ignite. You might even have seen the smoke or anything coming, but there was hot spots there to go in, and they would do whatever they had to do to try to limit a major flare. No, it still did happen from time to time, even we had one or two. But it is that type of creative. That's transformation here.
All right, Doc. All right. So any final words?
All right.
Okay, any final words before you leave, though?
No, I just say to folk that, look, let's watch this COVID situation, be advised on what you need to do, and be not afraid of vaccines, and one of the things that happened is people talked a lot about what was this drug again? Ivermectin. But all the studies on ivermectin, it proved that it had no effect on COVID. Followed the mainstream medicine. The mainstream medicine people have gone up there. They're doing research, and I obviously have an eye to when a vaccine company might be pushing something in their own interest as against in the broader interest of the community. But the vaccines work. They help people from that saved millions of lives in this country. Of the 198 people who died in 8 weeks, about 8 weeks in Grenada, the year before, in 2021, of that 98, no more than about 4 or 5 or so were vaccinated. And you want stronger evidence that vaccines work?
All right.
Good.
Thank you very much, Doc. You enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you very much once again.
Don't mention.
All right. And folks, we've been speaking there with Dr. Braffet, and he was giving us quite a bit of information in relation to the issue of COVID-19, some of the stuff that had been going on in relation to COVID-19, what is taking place right now, and so we got quite a bit of information from him there. Folks, the phone lines are open, 440-7377. For those of you outside of Grenada, 347-329-3101. So feel free to call in. I want to test my thing. I want to make sure my thing working proper. Yeah, I can't show all you because then I have to turn around camera, all kind of thing. But I want to test my thing. So make sure you all can call in. Now, yesterday as well. So just before I go into the new issue, it's now 24 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. Let me just say this. The takeouts from what Dr. Braffet just spoke about, it's very important. Yeah? COVID-19 is no joke. We saw, as he just mentioned, 198 people died within just a couple of weeks in Grenada. That's something that never happened before. Well, probably back in the days of cholera or some kind of thing, but you didn't have those kind of things happening in Grenada in that short space of time. So, for individuals who have what they call comorbidities, in other words, they have underlying conditions, you know, they're diabetic, or they have respiratory problems, they're asthmatic, they have bronchitis or bronchial problems with their lungs and so on. They have heart problems. They're a cancer survivor. That's those sort of people. These people need to ensure that they protect themselves. Yeah? And especially if they are over the age of 65. These individuals need to ensure that they protect themselves. And you need to help them protect themselves as well. All right? So simple things as if you know that you're coming down with the flu, or you've been in contact with somebody with what you consider the flu because you didn't take a test to see if it's COVID or not, stay away from these people. Yeah? Things like that. And then, you know, it falls back to another point as well. We've started the year, again, with no post-cabinet press briefing. This is an issue that should be aired to the general public during a post-cabinet press briefing. Because you're hearing on the news networks, you're hearing what's taking place in China. But you're not hearing from your government what they are doing or what they are putting in place to address this particular issue. Now that we've spoken about it, yeah, they're going to rush and do it now. But you've not been hearing about them. You have a press secretary that you're paying according to various sources. We're hearing it's over $10,000 a month that you're paying a press secretary, but you can't hold a post-cabinet press briefing, or you can't hold a press briefing. Even if you don't have the post-cabinet, but you have a press briefing. Instead, very rudely and arrogantly tells the media that we're going to talk to all you when we have something to say. So the media and then even when the media sends questions to the press secretary and to the government in relation to various issues, sometimes these questions are totally ignored. And it's only when we start to speak about it here that they start to respond to some of the questions that the people are asking. These are the things that you need to have weekly updates in relation to. So you know to protect yourselves and your family. And no one is saying what has been said here tonight in relation to the issue of COVID-19. No one has said what is being said here tonight because you're trying to frighten anybody. It's not to frighten anybody. It's not something you get scared about. It's something you get concerned about, and you put measures in place to protect yourselves and your family, your friends, your loved ones, your co-workers, the children, everyone. You put measures in place to protect them. And no one is saying that the measures you have to talk about are things like going back into lockdown. No one is suggesting any, and I want to make it clear. No one is suggesting going back to measures like lockdown and shopping on certain days and all these sort of things. No one is saying that. What we are saying is speak to the Grenadian people and let them know what is taking place and what is being prepared. We have a call online. Hello, good night.
Hi, good night, Sheldon. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm alright, so far, so good.
Okay, go right ahead.
Alright, listen, my concern is regarding the road problem that we have in St. George's, man.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, it makes driving a lot harder. In many places, there are some massive potholes, my brother.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, if you swing away from one, you end up in another one.
Well, believe me, I'm driving, and
to be honest with you, it just
man.
Yeah,
but you know,
especially
sometimes
the Woodlands, Woburn, Calamity area, it's just because it's like how many due to care attention you could. Sometimes you try to save somebody in the front and somebody smack you at the back.
Well, here's what I call her. You know, sometimes I get the feeling like if there's a van that drives around in the night and just goes and dig some hole. Because, you know, you could pass an area all well and okay today. And then by the time you pass tomorrow, there's a big pothole there. It's like if somebody passed in the night with a jackhammer and just put a pothole there.
Once I was coming down Asheville Avenue Hill there, and there's right around the corner by high school. I don't know just before Christmas they were doing some form of, I don't know what kind of patching it was, but I don't know what they put there. To be honest with you, as soon as they put on a vehicle gone, it didn't even last a half an hour. It did not last a half an hour. So I don't know what it was.
I think that the teams.
Go in certainly some dead corners, there are massive potholes, man.
Well, see, what has been taking place is that they're patching. Now, yes, the previous administration was also doing patching and so on, and you still had that same problem where today you pass and there's no pothole, and tomorrow you pass and there's one. Or when rains fall, that potholes appear in different areas. That is why what the former administration was doing was seeking funding to do some major road projects. So, for instance, you have one going along the west coast that would have taken into context Molinier, and also the landslip just outside St. John. That's what they call Maboya and other areas. So that's one project that the former administration was looking at. Also a project on the eastern side and some other minor projects in different areas to improve the road network, because every so often, every how much years, you have to upgrade and update your road network. So the patching is one thing. What you have not heard from this government is any sort of follow-up, any sort of plan, any sort of recognition that this was something that was there before and being discussed. The rebuilding of the road network. You can't just say that you're going to have the road network and just look.
If you look at the road, right, from Redgate comes straight down to the Woodlands Woburn area, that whole thing. I mean, there are many areas that even if you resurface a long piece, it's not going to work. This whole thing needs to dig up and completely redo.
Well, yeah? and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying.
The piece of road in St. David, the Corinth to be exact. And to be honest with you, within 2 weeks, they're right in the center of the piece which it's gone down already. You can see a hole right there.
So it's definitely something, it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. And I would suggest doing what the former administration was doing, that yes, you do your little patching and so on here and there as is necessary. But in tandem with that and parallel to that, you also work with developing the longer term strategy, which is to rebuild the road network. You know, it's the New National Party that did the road from Maurice Bishop Highway straight from the airport straight up to St. Patrick. Yeah. So it's time to do that again. It's time to take that approach in relation to it rather than just the patching.
To be honest with you, and we get some serious rainfall during the course of, well, actually the whole of last year, most of the time there was a lot of rainfall except a few months. But if the rain continues to fall heavy, we're going to have serious problem with our roads.
Yeah. All right, caller. Thank you very much.
All the best here.
All right. Wonderful. Yeah, another takeout from the discussion a while ago with Dr. Braffet. He was the chairman of the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, because there are people that are trying to give you the impression that the removal of vehicles and different things around the place is something that new. It's something that they came in and they just decide we have to do this thing and we go on and we're doing it and boots on the ground, you see, we get in the view. No. Because if people are honest with themselves, they would know that this is something that's been spoken about over a period of time and that the rollout was taking a while. You had COVID came up. That stopped a lot of things from taking place. But now the ministry has started the process of removing derelict vehicles around the island. And in fact, they're removing it. But I still think that there's an aspect of it that they're not looking at. Removing it is one. And I know Jeanette is going to get upset because I'm giving advice again. But it's for the national good. Yeah? That's the difference between us and them. All right? Now, removing the vehicles is one. What do they do with the vehicles when they remove them? Yeah? Take them and put them into another area to cause mosquito and rodents and that sort of thing? in my view, you strip the vehicles. There may be sellable parts that you can then catalog and you have into whether it's a virtual shop or whatever, because some of the vehicles, as bad as they are, may have salvageable parts on them, especially the very old models and the older models, parts that are very difficult to get. So you may be able to salvage that. And then the other aspect of it, as in using whatever else remains as scrap iron and selling that. So instead of just spending money and you're picking up vehicles and boots on the ground and we picking up vehicle and we dumping it there. Yeah, you pick up, you make a dump in another place, you're taking it up one place and you're dumping it at the next place. How do you then take that and make money for the state of Grenada? Yeah? So I'm saying that there should be a team. You have a lot of young people around. There are teams of young people that could be stripping these vehicles, getting the usable parts, cataloging that, so that people could get those parts for sale here. Maybe even people outside of Grenada, because there are some models of vehicle that you see on the side of the road there that it do have a second one in Grenada. Or it's 2 or 3. And the 2 and 3 is dilapidated at the side of the road and so. So there may be people even outside of Grenada, south in Trinidad, north in other countries that are looking for these parts. And that can be income that's coming in so that the project itself can continue instead of just spending money on it and talking about boots on the ground. That's the way that people who think and people who know what they're about deal with things instead of just rushing around and picking up things. Yeah? You pick up garbage one place and you dump it at the next place. No. Take the garbage and make it into something usable. All right? So that's just the suggestion. So you heard Dr. Braffet speak about that. He spoke about some of the work that was done at the cells up there in Perseverance. Yeah, if you're passing through the area, you realize that a transformation has taken place there over the last couple of years. Yeah, and that's not something that was done by this administration, but that was a project that was done by the last administration and the board of directors that was under Dr. Bert Braffet. All right. So, folks, once again, 440-7377 and 347-329-3101. And some people, they don't want to talk about the roads and them kind of thing. Yeah, some people want to talk about that. I see all you're calling some name in the chat there. See me? I don't call it nobody name. All I saying is I don't go in and hug up. I don't go in and close up. I don't go in and kiss up and take no picture with nobody that doing what these people are doing to my people. I'm being very clear on that. Yeah? I ain't going and do it. And even if a picture take, I am not the one going and post it. I ain't doing that. Yeah? You cannot be sending my brother home, firing my sister, depriving my grandmother of a little income that she might be getting from one of her grandchildren or children that are working, and expect me to grin, smile, and want to take picture with you. And then talking about unity? Nah, that ain't happening. We have a call online. Good night.
Hi, Sheldon. Good night.
Good night, my dear. Go right ahead. You're live.
Listen now. I went in Carriacou on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I come on vacation. I went in Carriacou on Saturday. I was supposed to spend 5 days. You know, I went Saturday and I come back Monday.
Oh, why Carriacou is one of the most beautiful places on the face of the earth, and why you rush out of paradise? What happened to you?
Because you can't go nowhere, Sharon. There is no gas in Carriacou, only diesel.
Bonjour. So you mean you had to walk?
I can stay in Carriacou if I have to sit down in the house. What is the sense that I left Grenada to go Carriacou?
So I wasn't lying when I said that there's a long line of traffic for gas this morning.
Since last night I was trying to get you, but I think I'll log in too late.
Oh, bonjour.
Yes, that is a shame. I want to ask him why you don't have gas. They said because they didn't pay the freight on the boat, so the boat are bringing up gas.
But you see, it's to me, if I am the...
it's a big problem. But that is sad, though.
Yeah.
They need to fix that.
Oh, my. All right. But I at least hope that you enjoyed your little stay on the beautiful Sister Isle.
I don't enjoy nothing because
oh, gosh.
that's what was in the van. It didn't reach nowhere.
So you couldn't go?
Anything.
So nobody don't even give some roll rice. Next time you have to tell me your day. Next time tell me your day, I will make sure you get some roll rice and some you'll get some cuckoo and some roll rice and thing.
Yes.
All right, I'll even make sure you get some corn flour to come down. My boys and them up there listening.
Okay.
All right, my dear.
right.
You enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for your call.
All right, good night.
All right, beautiful.
Bye.
Yes, indeed, folks. And yeah, that goes back to the issue we were speaking about before, and it shows leadership. Now, leadership perceives that this problem might be coming up and addresses the problem. So leadership looks at it and it says, hey, we have an issue. There's no storage, which means that we have to depend on you putting 2 gas trucks on a boat. Very dangerous. Putting a gas truck or 2 on a boat to take it up to Carriacou for them to roll off the boat, then to go and service the service stations and then come back on the boat, which is a dangerous thing. Yeah? So why can't they negotiate with the companies? Even if you have to negotiate with a private individual who is willing to provide the service. But at least don't allow it to get to a situation that, as the caller just said, they went to Carriacou, they couldn't even go anywhere because no gas in the van. And what little gas you have, you have to hold on to it tight. Because you never could tell if something happened and you need an emergency. You understand? Even if you have tankers going directly to Carriacou, where are they going to offload to? Yeah? So you need to have proper storage in Carriacou. That is common sense. But then common sense doesn't dwell with the present parliamentary representative. So you can't expect him to have that. That is another thing anyway. You understand? Yeah, common sense ain't common with them. So
Politics. Please don't forget, I'm just practicing to be a poet. Not qualified as yet, but have no fear. I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, 40 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock, 20 minutes remaining on tonight's program. 440-7377. And for those of you outside of Grenada, 347-329-3101. We do have the 440-7377 number on WhatsApp. That's what we were using a short while ago, but I realized that there's a problem with that line. So we're going to fix that problem so that tomorrow night you can also call via WhatsApp. So you'll be able to call 440-7377 via WhatsApp tomorrow night. I could try to take it tonight, but the problem is that the line seems to have a little problem. So I want to sort that out so that when you call, we can take your call and everything would be all right and okay. All right? So 440-7377. And for those of you in the diaspora, North America, 347-329-3101. And let me say again, good night to Jeanette and Sherms. Yeah, I know that you came in kind of late in the thing tonight, all right? Antonito, good night to you as well, brother? Yeah, I see you, they fighting up in the comments and thing. Yeah, I agree with all you. Don't go in and hug up and take no picture with nobody that doing this kind of thing to me people. Yeah? Because when me people apply for the... Well, some people saying grant, some people saying loan. Now, you don't repay a grant. You repay a loan. Yeah? So, if it's a loan, it's a loan. If it's a grant, it's a grant. But I ain't going and hug up nobody that when my people go to get the little grant, they are not being given. Or when they go to get the little loan, they're not being given. Simply because they support the political organization that put me into the position that I am in. Yeah? Simply because they are seen as supporters. Or they've been seen in a t-shirt. Sometimes the t-shirt has no marking on it, but it's just the color. Yeah? Or they were at a rally. Or they participated in a village meeting. And now they're applying. That's why I've said last night, and I'll repeat it again, cess has become a cesspool. And this morning I was listening to some of the radio programs and many people were calling and complaining. And then you had some people trying to defend it and saying, well, not everybody that apply getting through. But everybody that certain people tell apply getting through though. Yeah? Some of them don't even have business that making sense. They just went quick and register a business and so they wasn't operating for all the time. And they go and they are benefiting. Meanwhile, people with pre-existing businesses that need that infusion of cash. They need that little 5,000 or 10,000. They don't even want the whole 30. They just want some to help them move forward a bit. They can't get it. Only based on the fact that they are perceived as supporters of the new National Party. The only thing they are not being told that directly, at least not by the people in CES, but there are many people out there that say, go ahead, all you apply, all you ain't getting nothing. Could you believe that there are people that are working right now, the workers in marketing board, and what is being done to them is wicked and vile. What is being done to the workers at the Marketing and National Importing Board? How could you have people going to work on a daily basis wondering if today is my last? Because they have already been informed that many of them going home. So they know for a fact that some of them going home. And yet still, no trade union coming out and talk on the issue. No trade union is coming out and defend them. That is wicked and that is vile. And there is no way, absolutely no way, that I would go and hug up people that are doing that to people. I'm not doing it. Don't tell me about unity and you're treating one group of people one way and the next group of people the other way. Wait until you see the houses that have to be given out. Those houses that the National Democratic Congress of 2008 to 2013 gave up. They said, give us the money. We're going to take the money and we're going to use the money instead. So they said, give them the money. Right? Don't give us the houses. Give us the money. Because we have to pay salaries. We have to do this. We have to do that. That is what took place. The NNP came back in and said, no, we have an agreement as a government. Government has an agreement with you all that you're doing X amount of houses. We want the houses. I'll give them the money. There's no problem. We want the houses. And we want the stadium. Right? Now that the houses are complete and the government has changed, you're seeing all sort of stumbling block being put in the way of people to get the houses. Even those who were already given houses in Carriacou are now having a problem because they are being told and have been told by various individuals that they have to reapply. They ain't getting the house just so they have to reapply. People who were given their letters and told that all they had to do was go to Grenlec, get your connection, go to Nawasa and get your connection, and then you could move forward from there. That's all these people had to do. All of a sudden now it's come to a situation that you have to reapply. You know why you have to reapply? Because they want to give only NDC. The same situation with people who applied for the houses in St. David and who applied for the houses in Beaujeu and up there in St. Mark and up there in St. Patrick. All of those housing projects, you already had a list for it's 600 and something units, I believe. Can't remember the exact number, but I know it's around 600. Was it 600 and something? Yeah. Units. And then out of those units, all those units and so, you had a list of 4,000 people that apply already. So you didn't say 4,000 people apply already. Let's go through the list. Let's see who has been pre-approved. In other words, you ain't give them the house yet, but at least you say these are people that qualify due to their economic situation, due to their social standing and so on. These are people that ought to qualify for these houses and so that you pre-qualify those. You say these are the people. You see some other people, you say, well, this person own about 3 sets of property and think they don't need that. They're not qualified. They're not qualified for this reason. They're not qualified for so. They didn't even go through that process, They open it back. After they already have 4,000 people seeking 600 and something houses, they go back and they open it again to add more people to that 4,000 people. Tell me if you think they're doing anything else except setting up a situation where they're going to be providing those houses only to supporters of the National Democratic Congress. That ain't mean they ain't going to throw in a 1 or 2 NNP, They go sprinkle a NNP here and there, and that's the ones they're going to take the video camera to and go and tape them and say that, oh, look, we give house to this person, we give house to that person. So that people would have the impression now that they have been so magnanimous, and they didn't look at political party. They're looking at political party, which is the reason they're giving you all the excuses. That's why. So when they're going, they want to go and they want to shout. Imagine, you have a situation like the houses in Bujeju. You think that these individuals are going to ask the parliamentary representative, who has been the parliamentary representative there for some 30-something years, you think they're going to ask the parliamentary representative to recommend anybody for those houses and so there? You talking about unity. You think they're going to go to the parliamentary representative and say anything? You talking about unity. And when they go in Molinier, you think they call the parliamentary representative of St. George Northwest and said, sir, we're going to do a ceremony there again at the site that we know that you all already launched, you already start off everything for it, you all already sort out everything for it, but we want to make it look like it's us. So we go in and hold a ceremony there in your constituency, and you invite the parliamentary representative. After the election, Oliver Joseph ensured that there were lights placed in Rukane. The present Prime Minister went and turned on the lights and didn't even have the common decency or courtesy to say, well, let me invite Oliver. Because that is the person that really do all the work, and so all I come in and do is turn on the switch. I didn't have to dig a post. I didn't have to dig a hole for our base. I didn't have to organize to get the lights itself. All I had to do is come and turn on a switch. So let me say thank you to the person who did all the work. No. Or like what just came up a while ago in relation to the removal of the vehicles all over. All the legwork was done by the previous board, organizing and strategizing how it has to be done, what has to be done. You come in and you do it and you don't even say, well, we thank the board that existed previously. We'd like to thank them for all that they put in place to ensure that this was done and it was done properly. No, you're jumping out and around about boots on the ground. You're playing Veco. Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. They may be Veco. But I tell you already, it's not boots on the ground, it's boots in the rear. That is what is going on in this place. And then you come in and talk about unity and I must come and hug you up and take picture. I don't want no picture with all you. I'm not hugging. Who would want to say that I'm preaching? I'm not preaching division. I'm preaching don't be a hypocrite. And I can't be a hypocrite. Because I cannot stay here and see these things being done. Look. Up there in St. David again. Oliver Joseph ensured that there was a fire facility built onto the St. David police station. If you're passing there, you would see it attached to the St. David police station, a facility for the fire trucks. The fire trucks were ordered during the time of the NNP. I can assure you, when those fire trucks come and that facility is officially launched, they wouldn't even have the decency to call Oliver to say 2 words. They wouldn't do it. Because they want you to feel that it's something that they do. They want you to feel it's something that they came up with and that they do. And then they say, come and hug me and come and think about transformation and transformation about unity. Hypocrite. I ain't being that at all. I'm saying it as it is. Who want to go and hug up and kiss and take picture? That is the business. I'm not doing it. Don't come around me. I'm not interested. You can't treat my people so. You cannot treat my supporters so. You cannot treat the people who belong to the political organization that I belong to like that and expect me to come and skin and grin with you. I ain't doing it. I'm not. You can't treat my people like how you're treating them when they go and they take their time and they take their effort and they take their money and they put together the documents to go to CES. And then you have your caretaker for St. Mark and the treasurer of your political organization as the gatekeepers there to make sure that no person who's supporting the new National Party going to get any kind of support under the CES program. That's what they do. So all you know, the 2 people in charge of CES is the treasurer of the National Democratic Congress, the same person that was in charge of this company that used to be here doing the CBI program. I'm trying to remember the name of the company right now and it's slipping me. Somebody go message me and tell me just now. That is the situation that we have found ourselves in. So now that cess has turned into a cesspool. And people have lost trust in that already. People telling you September and August, they apply in September. They apply in September, October. And they can't say that how they refuse them because they did anything wrong or they don't qualify. These are people who, according to the rules that they've put in place, fully qualify. But according to the NDC rules, the only thing that doesn't qualify them is that they're not supporters of the NDC or they are not perceived to be supporters of the NDC. They believe that these are supporters of the NNP. So you can't treat my people or you're treating them when they're trying to better themselves and expect me to skin, grin, hug, and take picture with you. I'm not doing it. I'm not preaching division. I'm speaking that I will not be a hypocrite. Yeah? Love your brother. Talk to anybody. Interact with anybody. No problem. But you see, when it comes to that level, like you trying to use me to get forwards, that ain't taking place. Stay far. Telling all this straight, stay far. I do it, I'm not in that. You understand? You can have these young people that are in the Imani program that you fully know. You have defunded a significant aspect of the Imani program. Or you hear me correctly? They have defunded. Because you can't have, and I'm just using wild figures here, you can't have 38 million 1 year and bring it down to 22 million and say that you're going to keep the same amount of people in the program. And while you're doing that, you still open applications for new people to come into the program, but you have less money than the year before. That means some people going home. There's no if, what, or but about it. They could search the whole dictionary. There's only one thing that it means: some people going home. Who don't like it, that they business. But are saying it as it is. You cannot do these kind of things and come and talk about transformation and time to unite. So what? We must unite only to give you our forwards? While you take $24,000 additional on a yearly basis on your salary, you come and give the nurses a little $500 a month and telling them, stay with us now, stay with us. And while you do that with them, the Ernest and Young report for the police officers disappear into thin air. And up to today, since before Christmas, we telling all you need to do is make a phone call, send an email, or send a WhatsApp message to Ernst and Young office and get the report. But they refuse to do it because they have no intention of increasing the salaries of police officers. And they especially have no intention of increasing the salaries of police officers in line with what that report recommends. No intention. And you want me to come and skin and grin and take picture with you? I ain't no sheshe cat. I don't doing that. No way. Yeah, who want to do it, go and do it. That's your business. I ain't doing it. And I know many others are not doing it as well. Yeah? You cannot do these sort of things. You want to castigate and talk about who is this and who is that and who the other. Tell the public where the money for your toys came from. No, let's not forget. No. Tell the Grenadian people where the money to purchase the toys that you all went giving out in different places. Tell the public where that money came from. Since you're so open and transparent about everything, tell the Grenadian people. Tell the Grenadian people where the money came from for the hampers that were delivered. Because, I mean, we might have to talk to the Integrity Commission because I'm pretty sure that the MPs, some of them who never had a job in their life before, so they didn't have a full year working yet. They never had a job in their life before. This is the first job that they've ever had. And nothing is wrong with that. This is the first job they've ever had. So you're pretty sure that their financial standing wasn't to the point where they could have purchased the amount of hampers they purchased to go and give out around the place. Which means it would have been funded by some source. And I want to know if the source is a CBI investor. I want to know. Tell me straight up, no, that is not true, so on. I want to know if the source is a CBI investor. If it's an individual or a company involved in the CBI program here in Grenada. Yeah? Tell us. Because we know for a fact some already broke. So they didn't have no money to be doing no hamper and all them kind of things. So where did the money come from to do that? They like to talk about campaign finance and who finance campaign and all kind of thing. Yeah, let's have that conversation. But when you're having that conversation, get ready to make full declarations, each and every one of you, in relation to where the money for your campaign came from. I could call names, and none of you can take me to court. I could call names. I could call SWIFT account numbers. Yeah? In relation to campaign financing. To the NDC. So when you want to talk about campaign, you realize they're gone quiet on that one. They want to talk about them thing again. You realize they're leaving that alone. Because they realize when certain people say certain thing, we know very well what we're saying. So they start to back away from that one. If you ever went in the mangrove and catch crab, you realize when crab see they start to back into the hole, you look into it, you start to run, you think to the side, trying to get back into the hole because you realize he's in danger. That is how they're moving right now when it comes to those issues. And if they think that we're going to forget the Port Authority and what took place on the port, they lie. Because I want to know if it was rice and peas alone that was moving in the middle of the night, or if it may have had other things that should not have entered into our state of Grenada that was also moving off the port in the night. Because we don't know what came off of the port during the night. All we know is that things that shouldn't leave, left. And then you realize that they've gone quiet on that issue right now. They're trying to bury it. Let us not bury that issue. At least 2 or 3 times a month, we must ask the question, who were the individuals that were involved in removing items from the port in the middle of the night? Because I used to see trucks park up certain place and all kind of thing after 10, 11 in the night and thing. I could call names. But let's ask them kindly to provide us. Yeah? We want to know. Folks, that's basically all the time we have for talking points tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot more to talk about tomorrow night. Remember as well, Monday the 16th, take your calendar, mark it. Take your mobile device and put an alert to remind you that at 8 p.m. on Monday the 16th, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell will be on Talking Points. And you will have an opportunity to interact with him and so on as well. So make sure that all your day, and make sure between now and then that you all click subscribe. Make sure you click the notification button on YouTube. Make sure that you like and share, and you like the Talking Points page on Facebook, so that anything that we have coming up, you would get advance notice. So you know that Dr. Mitchell is coming up. We'll also be having some other individuals during the week, next week, and so on, who will be on the program with us. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to have some very interesting, look at that, Dr. Bert Braffet and Talking Points is who had to talk to you about the new variant of COVID-19 and what to do and what's taking place and what to expect. Have you heard from your government? You know, when I was small, there used to be an ad that used to come out on television at around 7 o'clock. Used to say it's 7 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Well, it's 2023. Do you know where your government is? Folks, that's all the time we have for Talking Point. Yeah, let me get them a tune to go. I think it have a nice tune for them. With that tune, boy. Yeah. Let me get them a tune to go with.
Because them, when they see them pass, or just take a big stone and knock down the ras. But I have a therapy I'm willing to share. Anytime the pressure get too much to bear, I have a new dance CTC formula. Once you do it, I know you must feel better. So give me a minute or two. Let me explain the dance to you. Just a simple demonstration. It is very easy to learn. Put your hand in the air like this. Close your finger and make a fist. Let go your tongue, put it in the air. Wave it like you ain't care. Anytime you see them MP, do it for them to see. And if they ask you what that means, tell them the dance you do it is one term. One term. I want all you to take a chance. Show them the one term dance. One term. One term. Put your thumb up and then balance. Show them the one term dance. If you be.